If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating narratives that explore the complex dynamics of family relationships. Now, let's dive into Sarah's journey. The timer buzzed with an insistent urgency that matched the pounding in Sarah Mitchell's temples. She wiped her flour-covered hands on her apron and silenced the device with a quick tap. Outside the kitchen window, snowflakes drifted lazily past, a stark contrast to the frenetic energy that had consumed her since 5 o'clock that morning. The aroma of roasting turkey and simmering cranberry sauce filled the air, mingling with the sweet scent of pumpkin pies cooling on the rack. "How's it coming along in there?" Her Aunt Meredith's voice floated in from the living room, where laughter and the sound of football commentary created a festive backdrop. "We're absolutely starving." Sarah glanced at the clock. 2:30. Still half an hour before she'd promised dinner would be ready. 18 years of cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 30 people, and somehow they still expected her to perform miracles. "Almost there," she called back, forcing cheerfulness into her voice while simultaneously checking the turkey, stirring the gravy, and mentally calculating how long it would take to finish the mashed potatoes. At 34, Sarah had spent more than half her life as the unofficial caterer for her family's Thanksgiving celebration. What had begun as an emergency solution when she was 16 had somehow morphed into an unspoken obligation that grew heavier with each passing year. She still remembered that first year with perfect clarity. Her mother, Ellen, had fallen on a patch of ice 3 days before Thanksgiving, resulting in a broken wrist and the potential cancellation of the family's most treasured holiday gathering. "I can do it, Mom," 16-year-old Sarah had offered, her voice filled with the confidence of someone who had watched her mother prepare the feast for years and occasionally helped with the simpler tasks. Ellen had looked skeptical. "It's a lot of work, sweetheart. Maybe we should just cancel this year." But Sarah had insisted, not wanting to disappoint the extended family, especially her grandfather who had recently been diagnosed with heart problems. "It's important for everyone to be together. I've got this." That first year had been chaotic, but successful. Sarah had followed her mother's recipes to the letter, calling her for advice every few minutes. The turkey had been slightly dry, the gravy a bit lumpy, but the family had showered her with praise for stepping up in a crisis. "Our little chef," her Uncle Tom had proclaimed, raising his wine glass in a toast. "Who knew you had such talent?" The praise had felt intoxicating to a 16-year-old eager to prove her worth to the adults. Sarah had beamed with pride, not realizing she was being handed a role she would struggle to relinquish for the next 18 years. Now, as she frantically tried to keep multiple dishes warm while finishing others, Sarah caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window above the sink. Dark circles underlined her eyes, and a streak of flour marked her cheek. Beyond her reflection, she could see her family members lounging in the living room, drinks in hand, completely at ease while she hadn't sat down since before dawn. "Need any help in there?" Her cousin Lisa poked her head into the kitchen, glass of wine in hand. "Actually, yes," Sarah replied, hopeful. "Could you help me mash these potatoes while I finish the green bean casserole?" Lisa laughed, taking a sip of her wine. "Oh, I'd just mess it up. You know I'm hopeless in the kitchen, but it smells amazing. Can't wait to taste everything." She disappeared back into the living room before Sarah could respond. It was always the same. Offers of help that weren't genuine. Compliments that somehow felt like compensation rather than appreciation. And the unspoken expectation that Sarah would continue to sacrifice her holiday for everyone else's enjoyment. As she vigorously mashed the potatoes, Sarah felt something inside her shift. A question formed in her mind, one she had never allowed herself to fully articulate before. Why am I doing this? The Thanksgiving of Sarah's 30th birthday had been particularly revealing. She remembered standing in this same kitchen 4 years ago, adding the finishing touches to the elaborate meal while her family gathered in the living room. "Sarah, honey," her mother had called out, "don't forget your cousin Diane is vegetarian now, so make sure there are plenty of meat-free options." This announcement had come at 2 o'clock, when most of the dishes were already prepared or in their final stages. Sarah had frantically improvised, creating a substantial vegetable dish from the limited ingredients she had on hand. Later, as she served the meal, Diane had looked at the hastily assembled vegetable medley and remarked, "Oh, I'm actually eating poultry again. But this looks interesting." The vegetables had remained largely untouched, a colorful reminder of yet another accommodation that had gone unappreciated. That same year, her brother Michael had brought his new girlfriend, who had spent the entire meal critiquing each dish with the authority of someone who had watched too many cooking shows. "The turkey is a bit overdone," she had declared after her first bite, "and the gravy could use more herbs. Have you tried adding rosemary?" Sarah had smiled tightly while her family nodded in agreement, as if the girlfriend had articulated something they'd all been thinking. No one had defended her cooking or acknowledged the hours of preparation. Instead, her aunt had chimed in, "You should write these suggestions down, Sarah. Always room for improvement, right?" Now, as Sarah placed the mashed potatoes in a serving bowl, she remembered how she had spent the evening of her 30th birthday washing dishes alone while her family enjoyed dessert in the dining room. No one had offered to help. No one had even seemed to remember it was her birthday. The memory crystallized something for Sarah. She wasn't being treated like family on Thanksgiving. She was being treated like hired help. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Wiping her hands on her apron, she pulled it out to see a text from her college roommate, Megan. "Happy Thanksgiving. Still bummed you couldn't make it to Portland this year. My door's always open if you change your mind. Miss you." Sarah stared at the message, something stirring inside her. For years, Megan had invited her to spend Thanksgiving in Portland, where she had moved after college. And for years, Sarah had declined, bound by the unspoken obligation to cook for her family. She thought about Megan's Thanksgivings, potluck style, with friends bringing dishes and everyone pitching in for setup and cleanup. She thought about how Megan had described them: joyful, relaxed, a true celebration rather than an endurance test. The timer buzzed again, jolting Sarah back to the present. The green bean casserole was done, golden and bubbling. As she pulled it from the oven, setting it beside the other completed dishes, she heard her Uncle Tom's voice. "Is it ready yet? The game's about to start, and we don't want to miss kickoff." Something inside Sarah snapped, quietly, without drama, but with absolute finality. 18 years of Thanksgivings flashed before her eyes. 18 years of rising before dawn, of sore feet and burned fingers, of criticism thinly veiled as helpful suggestions, of cleaning up alone while others enjoyed the fruits of her labor. She looked at the feast she had prepared: the perfectly roasted turkey, the creamy mashed potatoes, the homemade rolls, the pies cooling on the rack, and for the first time, she saw it not as an expression of love, but as a symbol of her own erasure. Sarah untied her apron and hung it on the hook by the pantry door. Then, with steady hands, she took out her phone and opened the airline app. "I'm sorry. How much is that ticket again?" Sarah asked, her voice barely audible over the sounds of her family in the next room. The airline representative repeated the figure, an exorbitant amount for a last-minute flight on Thanksgiving Day. Sarah hesitated for only a moment before providing her credit card information. The transaction complete, she looked at the confirmation on her screen. A one-way ticket to Portland, departing in 3 hours. Taking a deep breath, she walked into the living room where her family was gathered, some watching football, others chatting over drinks. The scene was exactly as it had been for the past 18 Thanksgivings. Comfortable, oblivious, expectant. "Dinner's not quite ready," Sarah announced, her voice steadier than she had anticipated. Her mother looked up, brow furrowed. "What do you mean? It's almost 3. We always eat at 3. "The thing is," Sarah continued, aware that all eyes were now on her, "I won't be serving dinner today. I'm going to Portland to visit Megan. My flight leaves in 3 hours, so I need to head to the airport soon." The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the muted commentary from the football game on television. "This is a joke, right?" Her Aunt Meredith was the first to speak, laughing uncertainly. "Very funny, Sarah." "It's not a joke." Sarah met her aunt's gaze directly. "There's a turkey in the oven that needs another 45 minutes. The sides are in various stages of completion. You can finish preparing them yourselves, or you can find another solution for dinner." "But you always cook Thanksgiving dinner." her cousin Jason protested, as if stating an immutable law of nature. Yes, I have. For 18 years. Since I was 16. Sarah kept her voice calm, though her heart was racing. And in those 18 years, not once has anyone offered to genuinely help. Not with the preparation, not with the serving, and certainly not with the cleanup. Her mother stood up, confusion and hurt evident on her face. Sarah, if you were feeling overwhelmed, you should have said something. We would have helped. Would you? Sarah asked quietly. Because I've been asking for help for years. I've been dropping hints, making direct requests, even trying to delegate tasks. But somehow, I always end up doing everything alone. That's not fair, her brother Michael interjected. Lisa offered to help you just today. Lisa offered in a way that made it clear she had no intention of actually helping, Sarah replied. It's a pattern I've noticed over the years. Everyone wants to appear helpful without having to actually disrupt their holiday. Her father, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Sarah, you can't just abandon Thanksgiving dinner at the last minute. What about the family tradition? What tradition, Dad? The tradition of one person working themselves to exhaustion while everyone else relaxes? The tradition of criticizing the meal that took days to prepare? The tradition of leaving me to clean up alone while you all watch football or nap? The room fell silent again, her words hanging in the air like the aroma of the partially cooked meal. I didn't realize you felt this way, her mother finally said, her voice small. That's part of the problem, Sarah replied, softening slightly. No one realized, or if they did, no one cared enough to make a change. Either way, I need a break. I need to experience a holiday where I'm treated like family, not staff. So you're just going to leave us without dinner on Thanksgiving? Her Aunt Meredith's tone had shifted from disbelief to accusation. Sarah gestured toward the kitchen. There's food in there. It needs to be finished. You're all capable adults. Figure it out. She turned to leave, then paused, looking back at her stunned family. I've left notes on the counter about what needs to be done with each dish. The turkey timer will go off when it's ready. Good luck. With that, Sarah walked upstairs to pack a small overnight bag, leaving her family to grapple with the reality of their first Thanksgiving without her at the helm. The airport was surprisingly quiet. Most travelers had reached their destinations earlier in the day, eager to be settled before the traditional Thanksgiving feast. Sarah sat at her gate, an island of calm in the emotional storm she had just navigated. Her phone had been buzzing consistently since she left the house. Text messages and voicemails from various family members ranged from angry accusations to confused inquiries to grudging respect. She had responded to none of them, needing time to process her own feelings before engaging with theirs. As she waited for her flight, Sarah scrolled through her camera roll, looking at photos from previous Thanksgivings. In almost every picture, she was either absent, behind the camera or in the kitchen, or visibly exhausted, her smile not quite reaching her eyes while everyone else beamed with holiday cheer. It was telling, she thought, that not once in 18 years had anyone suggested taking a family photo before she served dinner, so that she could be included. It was always after, when she was busy clearing plates or preparing to serve dessert. Flight 276 to Portland is now boarding, the gate agent announced, interrupting Sarah's reflections. As she stood to join the boarding line, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from her cousin Ellie, the youngest of the adult relatives at 25. I never realized how much work you put into Thanksgiving every year. We've been trying to finish what you started, and it's chaos. 6 of us in the kitchen, and we can't figure out how to coordinate everything. How did you do this alone for so many years? I'm sorry we took you for granted. Enjoy Portland. You deserve a break. Sarah felt a small knot in her throat as she read the message. It was the first acknowledgement of the magnitude of her contribution, the first real apology. She typed a quick response. Thank you, Ellie. That means a lot. The turkey should be done by now. Don't forget to let it rest before carving. Good luck with everything. Once on the plane, Sarah felt a curious mixture of guilt and liberation. The guilt was old and familiar, a product of years of being conditioned to put others' needs before her own. The liberation was new and fragile, but growing stronger with each mile that separated her from the life she had momentarily abandoned. By the time the plane touched down in Portland, Sarah had made peace with her decision. She had not acted impulsively out of spite, but had taken a necessary step toward reclaiming her holiday experience and, by extension, her place within her family. Megan was waiting at the arrival gate, her face lighting up when she spotted Sarah. The two friends embraced, years of shared history making words unnecessary. "I can't believe you actually came," Megan said as they broke apart, her eyes searching Sarah's face. "What happened?" "I finally realized I deserve to enjoy Thanksgiving too," Sarah replied simply. Megan's apartment was warm and inviting, filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation. A mismatched group of 8 people, friends, neighbors, and a couple of holiday orphans who couldn't travel home, sat around a table laden with dishes of varying sophistication. "Everyone brings something," Megan explained as she introduced Sarah to the group. "Some cook, some buy pre-made, some just bring wine or drinks. The only rule is that everyone helps with cleanup." The contrast to Sarah's family Thanksgivings couldn't have been more stark. Here, there was no hierarchy, no single person bearing the burden of the entire meal. Everyone contributed according to their ability, and everyone participated in both the preparation and the enjoyment. As they sat down to eat, someone suggested a toast. Glasses were raised and a chorus of thanks went around the table. Thanks for friendship, for hospitality, for the opportunity to share a meal with both old friends and new. When it came to Sarah's turn, she found herself momentarily speechless, overwhelmed by the simple pleasure of sitting at a table where she was valued as a participant rather than a provider. "I'm thankful," she finally said, her voice steady, "for the reminder that celebrations should bring joy, not obligation. And I'm thankful for friends who understand that giving also means knowing when to receive." The meal that followed was unlike any Thanksgiving dinner Sarah had experienced in her adult life. The food was good, some dishes excellent, others merely adequate, but the atmosphere was transformative. For the first time in 18 years, Sarah ate while the food was still hot. She participated in conversations without having to jump up every few minutes to check on something in the kitchen. She laughed without restraint, unencumbered by the anticipation of hours of cleanup ahead. And when the meal was over, something miraculous happened. Everyone helped clear the table and clean the kitchen. In 20 minutes, with music playing and conversations continuing, the work that would have taken Sarah hours to complete alone was finished. Later that evening, as she and Megan sat on the couch with mugs of tea, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "We managed dinner, though not nearly as well as you would have. Your absence made us realize how much we've depended on you and how little we've appreciated your efforts. When you're ready to talk, I am too. Love you." Sarah showed the message to Megan, who squeezed her hand in understanding. "So, what happens next year?" Megan asked. Sarah looked out the window at the Portland skyline, the city lights twinkling in the early evening darkness. "I don't know," she admitted. "But for the first time in a long time, I get to decide." The morning after Thanksgiving, Sarah woke to the unfamiliar sensation of being well-rested. No aching feet from hours of standing in the kitchen, no residual stress from managing multiple complex dishes simultaneously, no lingering resentment from cleaning up alone. Over breakfast with Megan, she finally checked the remaining messages from her family. They formed a narrative arc: initial shock and anger, followed by confusion, then the chaos of attempting to salvage the dinner, and finally, a growing recognition of what Sarah had been silently enduring for nearly 2 decades. Her brother Michael had sent a particularly revealing text. "Had no idea how to time everything. Turkey was ready, but potatoes weren't done. Rolls were cold by the time gravy was finished. How did you make it look so easy? P.S. 4 of us spent 2 hours cleaning up and still didn't get it all done. WTF." Sarah couldn't help but smile at this belated recognition of her skills. It wasn't that she had wanted her family to fail at dinner. It was that she had needed them to understand what they had been taking for granted. Her weekend in Portland passed in a blur of simple pleasures. Exploring the city with Megan, meeting her friends, enjoying meals that someone else had prepared or that they had cooked together. It felt like a glimpse into an alternate reality where holidays were collaborative experiences rather than solo performances. When Sunday arrived and it was time to return home, Sarah felt a clarity she hadn't experienced in years. The break had given her perspective, allowing her to see both her family's dynamics and her own role in maintaining them with fresh eyes. Her mother was waiting at the airport when she landed, an unexpected gesture that spoke volumes about the shift that had occurred in her absence. "I wasn't sure you'd want to see me," Ellen said as they embraced. "I wasn't mad at you specifically, Mom," Sarah replied as they walked to the car. "I was mad at a situation that none of us questioned for too long." The drive home was filled with conversation more honest than any they had shared in years. Ellen admitted that the family had fallen into the comfortable pattern of relying on Sarah because she was so competent, never stopping to consider the toll it was taking on her. "After you left, it was chaos," Ellen confessed. "No one knew what to do. We tried to follow your notes, but everything went wrong. The turkey was dry, the gravy had lumps, and the rolls burned. We ended up ordering Chinese food and eating it on paper plates because we couldn't coordinate a proper meal." Sarah couldn't help but laugh at the image. "I'm sorry it was so stressful." "Don't apologize," Ellen said firmly. "We deserved it. What I can't understand is why you didn't say something sooner." Sarah considered this. "I did, in my way. But I think I also needed to prove I could handle it. Being the Thanksgiving cook became part of my identity in the family, the thing I was known for. It took me a long time to realize that being valued for what you provide isn't the same as being valued for who you are." When they arrived at the house, Sarah was surprised to find several family members waiting. Her father, her brother Michael, her Aunt Meredith, and her cousin Ellie. The atmosphere was subdued, a stark contrast to the usual post-Thanksgiving family gathering. "We wanted to talk to you," her father said after awkward greetings had been exchanged. "As a family." They gathered in the living room, the scene of countless holiday celebrations and, most recently, Sarah's Declaration of Independence. "What happened on Thanksgiving was a wake-up call for all of us," her father began. "We've been taking you for granted, Sarah. No one should have to bear the entire burden of a family celebration alone. The thing is," Michael added, "we didn't even realize it was a burden. You made it look so effortless that we convinced ourselves you enjoyed doing it all." "Did you?" Aunt Meredith asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "Enjoy it, I mean." Sarah considered the question carefully. "Parts of it, yes. I love cooking, and I love bringing people together through food. What I didn't love was being excluded from the celebration itself, being the one who never got to relax, who was always on call, who cleaned up alone while everyone else enjoyed themselves." There was a moment of uncomfortable silence as her words sank in. "We want to do better," Ellie said finally. "We've been talking about it since you left. We want to make changes for next year." "What kind of changes?" Sarah asked cautiously. "For starters," her father replied, "Thanksgiving will be a potluck from now on. Everyone brings a dish or contributes in some way. No one person does everything. And we'll have a cleanup schedule," Michael added. "Teams of 2 or 3, rotating throughout the day so no one gets stuck with all the work. And we thought," Ellie chimed in, "that maybe you could teach some of us your recipes. Not so you have to keep making them, but so we can share the knowledge and the tradition." Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with resentment or obligation. It was the warmth of being seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in 18 years. "I'd like that," she said softly. "I really would." 3 years later, Sarah stood in her mother's kitchen, but the scene was markedly different from the Thanksgivings of her past. Around her, family members moved with purpose. Her brother Michael and his wife preparing the stuffing, her cousin Ellie carefully monitoring the turkey, her Aunt Meredith and Uncle Tom setting the table in the dining room. Sarah herself was focused on her signature pumpkin pies, the one dish she had chosen to contribute to the meal. After her dramatic departure 3 years ago, the family had indeed restructured their holiday traditions. Thanksgiving was now a collaborative effort, with responsibilities distributed according to interest and ability rather than unspoken expectations. The change hadn't been seamless. The first year had seen its share of coordination issues and culinary missteps. The turkey had been slightly underdone, requiring an emergency return to the oven that delayed dinner by 45 minutes. The gravy had separated, necessitating a last-minute rescue operation led by Sarah's father, who had surprised everyone by revealing hidden culinary skills. The desserts had been store-bought, lacking the homemade touch that Sarah had always provided. But despite these hiccups, or perhaps because of them, the celebration had been more authentic and inclusive than any in recent memory. Everyone had participated, everyone had contributed, and most importantly, everyone had both worked and relaxed. The second year had gone more smoothly, with family members settling into their chosen roles and developing new skills. Sarah had been present for that Thanksgiving, taking on the more manageable task of preparing the appetizers and helping with overall coordination. She had found herself enjoying the holiday in a way she hadn't since childhood, appreciating the shared responsibility and the opportunity to actually sit at the table for the entire meal. Now, in the third year since her Portland escape, Sarah had established a new tradition of her own, alternating Thanksgiving locations. This year she was with family. Next year she would travel, either to visit Megan in Portland or to explore a new destination. The arrangement gave her both the connection to family tradition and the freedom to create new experiences, a balance she had never thought possible during those 18 years of kitchen captivity. "How are those pies coming along?" her mother asked, pausing beside her with a glass of wine in hand. "Almost ready for the oven," Sarah replied, crimping the edge of the crust with practiced fingers. "Remember when you used to do all of this yourself?" Ellen gestured around the bustling kitchen. "I still can't believe we let that happen for so long." Sarah smiled, the old resentment having faded into something more like bemused retrospection. "We all played our parts. I was as responsible as anyone for not setting boundaries." "Still," Ellen insisted, "it shouldn't have taken such a dramatic exit to make us see what was happening. I'm sorry we were so blind." "I'm not," Sarah said thoughtfully. "Or at least, I'm not sorry anymore. That Thanksgiving in Portland showed me what a holiday could feel like when it's shared equally. It changed everything. Not just for me, but for all of us." Ellen nodded, looking around at the family working together in harmonious chaos. "You're right. It's better this way. More work for some of us, maybe, but more enjoyment for everyone." As they spoke, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Megan. "Happy Thanksgiving. Portland misses you this year, but we're saving your place for next November. How's family duty going?" Sarah looked up from her phone, taking in the scene around her. Her niece and nephew were helping their father with the stuffing, flour dusting their small hands and faces. Her aunt and uncle were laughing as they arranged the place settings, disagreeing good-naturedly about the proper placement of the napkins. Her mother was moving between groups, wine in hand, offering encouragement and the occasional tip, but carefully avoiding taking control. It was chaotic, imperfect, and occasionally inefficient, but it was also joyful, inclusive, and alive in a way the old Thanksgivings had never been. "It's not duty anymore," Sarah texted back to Megan. "It's just family." Later, as they all sat around the table, dishes passed from hand to hand, conversations flowing freely, Sarah caught her reflection in the window. She looked relaxed, engaged, present in a way that her 16-year-old self could never have imagined possible during a family holiday. When it came time for the traditional sharing of gratitude, Sarah's turn arrived last. "I'm thankful," she said, looking around at the faces of her family, "for second chances, for the opportunity to redefine traditions rather than being defined by them, for the understanding that true celebration happens when everyone contributes and everyone participates." She raised her glass in a toast, her family following suit. "Two empty plates," she said with a smile, "that we fill together." If you enjoyed this story, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us continue to bring you compelling narratives that explore the complexities of family, tradition, and personal growth. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to sharing more stories with you soon.